relative to gold, silver is cheap, and if you think gold is gonna go up, silver has to go up more. And I will say, absolutely across the board, the silver stocks have been massacred, okay? The resource market in general, it has been filled with carnage, but the silver stocks in particular, everybody hates silver now, even the silver bugs.
Yeah. So that makes it interesting. And that's why, I guess that's why we're talking about it. We had a breakout and yet it's still relatively cheap to gold. And the stocks are ridiculously cheap. Moriarty, how you doing?
I'm doing very good. Yesterday was a good day.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That I meant to ask you, but glad to hear that. I had you on it's been about, I want to say 2.5 to 3 weeks ago when we were talking at the time about the banks. Let's talk about that and work that out a little bit more. The funding ended and just tell me, again, a 30,000 foot view of what's going on. You mentioned it's blowing up right now, and I had another guest on that it's blowing up right now. So give me your thoughts and where we're at with all of that.
Well, it's very interesting, and you could put in the date of the interview when we actually talked. It was prior to the 11th because the bank term loan facility ended on the 11th,
It
and
was March 8th.
yeah, and I said, I think that's going to be a disaster. So the 30,000 foot view is that in March of last year, the banking system was on the edge of a total failure. The Fed came in and said to all the banks that were underwater, you can give us your used toilet paper and we'll pretend it's not used toilet paper and we'll give you T-bills and T-notes. And someday we'll end that program and that'll give you time to get your books back into shape. Well, actually, the last year has not been good for the banks. The commercial real estate market is an utter disaster, and the markdowns on commercial real estate buildings selling have been up to 90%. So the banks were in bad shape a year ago, on the verge of collapse. The Fed bailed them out, and now the Fed has said, okay, we're going to give you back your used toilet paper. I can't see how it could be anything other than a ticking time bomb. The banks are going to start reporting earnings in the next 2 weeks, and it could be catastrophic. It's going to be catastrophic at some point, and the only question is when. The banks are underwater, and someday we're going to have to admit it.
Exactly. I'm going through the stance that the Fed is playing, that they have to play, about they'll come out quite dovish. And then Powell, I believe it was just yesterday, and this is for all those listening and watching, this is the 4th of February, 4th of April, pardon me. It was yesterday or the day before. I'm trying to remember where he talked about, hey, we still got to be vigilant with inflation. And it was almost like he was trying to talk back the dovishness, but I'm assuming that's where the dovishness is coming back from, is Powell protecting his buddies in the private banking sector. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's my question. When you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, how do you do it without your tongue getting in the way? Yeah. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to play up we're going to lower crime, when in fact, it's not going to happen. Okay. We have inflation. Inflation is going to go higher. Interest rates are going to go higher. Bonds are going higher right now. And not the interest rate of bonds is going higher right now. So I personally question the ability of the Fed to lower interest rates. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, the market is totally delusional. I mean, whoever is supplying Coke to Zelensky has been supplying a lot of it to Washington and to Wall Street. And the stock market in the United States, totally delusional. And bad things are going to happen. They're going to happen this year. It's just a question of whether it's going to happen this week or this month.
No, I would agree. And that really goes into metals. Precious metals been doing quite well. Silver's really recently, in the past couple of weeks or few weeks, has really been starting to spike up, and it looks really, really strong. And then in the last 4 weeks, stocks, the metal stocks, precious metal stocks, are starting to catch a good bid. Who's buying here?
The English education system talks about the difference between the question and the answer. Which is more important?
Good question.
Why?
I'd tell you that because I just think that's the thing to say. But I do believe that questions are more important than answers, because it makes your mind ask more questions, if you would, and open to other possibilities.
Nope.
Do you tell me then?
Okay. If you ask the wrong question, what do you get?
You get a bad answer, the wrong answer.
Thank you very much. That's why the question is more important than the answer. So we've got this really interesting situation where somebody's just buying the crap out of gold and silver. So the question, I think a really good question would be, if the United States is effectively at war with you, why would you want to own their debt?
Yes.
And China and Russia are saying, we don't want to own their debt. But then you've got the problem, what do you do with the money? Now, I am a big fan of sentiment. Everybody that follows me, everybody that's read my books, they're on Amazon, by the way. You can buy them, and you can buy them for 99 cents. If you can't afford that, you shouldn't be investing.
I'll link to them in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. But somebody is buying regardless of all the technicals, regardless of supply and demand. And I think that what they're really doing is they're shifting from US dollar notes into gold. And gold is going up much higher, much faster than it would typically. I don't know if I remember a time that gold has gone up 7 days in a row, but as of yesterday, it had gone up 7 days in a row. At this point, I would really like to see a correction. And we've got a correction going today, but it's only down like $8. Now, if it was down $50 today, I would say, okay, we've had a top. But everything that I'm seeing says this is just the start of a massive rally. Now, let's go back to silver. Okay, the question should be, in what investment do you get the goofiest investors?
Silver.
That would be silver. I love silver. I own a lot of silver, but
Me too.
silver bugs are nuttier than a shit house rat. Okay, they're just absolutely crazy. Back in early 2011, somebody who had written a big piece about silver sent me the piece, and I read the piece and thought, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. And he got in touch with me and said, look, that piece has been all over the web. Over 500,000 people have read it. It is the best piece anybody has ever written about silver. I said, well, that's nice. But I said, tell you what, if you would write a piece about how dangerous it is to own silver when it tops, I would print that. Now, here's what's crazy. Anybody that's followed gold, silver, the S&P, Dow, corn, wheat, lumber, anything, nothing goes down faster than silver. When
Mhm.
silver tops, it falls right off a cliff. And of course, silver bugs get caught every single time. There are guys who are considered gurus who are saying in 2000 that if the United States ever got into another war, silver being the most critical war metal would go to $50 to $100 an ounce all by itself. Nothing else would go up, just silver. So let's see. We had Iraq, we had Syria, we had Afghanistan, we've got Gaza, we've got
Yeah, Russia.
Ukraine. I mean, silver should be like $500 an ounce right
Right.
now.
Right.
But and I do own silver. I mean, I will cater. Uh, I buy things because they're cheap, and if you look at the gold silver ratio, it's about around 90 to 1 relative to gold. Silver's cheap. That's why I buy silver.
Right.
Silver gets to 20 or 30 to 1 on gold. I'll be selling silver and buying gold. But silver literally exploded yesterday. It was up over $1 an ounce. It crossed $27, and it's a breakout. And after a short correction, I think silver is going to go much higher.
Got it. Well, you wrote a piece. It might have been today, that I found interesting. It was today or yesterday. I read it this morning where you talked about, I want to say it was the DSI indicator. And it's basically, I'd like you to talk about that in space because I think that's a great indicator because it shows anxiety and angst, if you would, in the market, which is really good if you're an investor, meaning you want to be on the opposite side of that. So if there's like a wall of worry, but you can talk about the indicator and your thoughts on that and where silver is in regards to contrarian and a ball of worry.
Andy, you just made it really complicated.
Make it simple for us.
Okay, here's the deal. And if you understand this, you understand everything you need to know about investing. You don't have to know about interest rates. You don't have to know about currency. You don't have to know about Fed. You don't have to know about gold production. You don't need to know about Ukraine or Gaza or anything else. If you can understand what the mob is doing, the
Yes.
mob is always wrong. Now, I learned that literally going back to when I first invested in gold was 1968. I was in Vietnam. I was a pilot. And I looked around and said, man, this is costing somebody a lot of money. And the only tax to pay for Vietnam was a 10% income tax surcharge, which is not very much money. So I said, this has to be negative for the dollar. Now, I also was an intelligence officer, and literally in intelligence school, they tell you if you ask the right question, if you just look around, you can figure out stuff by yourself. So let me ask you a trick question. What tax has the United States put on to pay for the global war on terror that's up to about $6 trillion now?
I will answer that two ways. Number one, I can't see it, but I can with my loss of purchasing power. The inflation tax. That's what I would say to you. No?
Well, it's strange enough, and that's actually very astute. That's a very smart thing to do. It's important to understand that inflation absolutely is a tax, but there is not a single direct tax on Americans, but their $6 trillion been pissed away to the military industrial complex. Tell you how bad it is. the Secretary of State was talking about the 700,000 dead Ukrainian soldiers and said it's actually a very good thing because it's created a lot of jobs in the United States. And I thought that guy is sick.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard an American politician say. 700,000 dead Ukrainians is okay because it creates jobs in the United States. I didn't want to create jobs that way.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's the
But
worst.
let's go back to silver.
Yeah.
Relative to gold, silver is cheap, and if you think gold is going to go up, silver has to go up more. And I will say, absolutely across the board, the silver stocks have been massacred. Okay, the resource market in general, it has been filled with carnage, but the silver stocks in particular, everybody hates silver now, even the silver bugs.
Yeah. So that makes it interesting. And that's why, I guess that's why we're talking about it. We had a breakout, and yet it's still relatively cheap to gold. And the stocks are ridiculously cheap. Let's talk about some stocks. They've gotten so beaten up, but they've caught a bid the last couple weeks, few weeks. What are some of your favorites that you like?
Okay, well, let's talk about the markets overall. Gold is up 15% in the last month or 6 weeks, and the gold stocks are up about 25%. And it is absolutely typical that when gold and silver are moving higher, the shares will move considerably higher more than that. If we have something like we had in 2016, from January 2016 to August of 2016, there will be hundreds of stocks moving up 200, 300, 400, 500%. I can think of one stock, and it was a really funny stock because I don't want to mention who was behind it. There was a stock that did a Hail Mary pass in 2015 at 5 cents just to keep the door open. And they hit it at exactly the right time. They drilled a few holes that looked good, and the stock went to $5 a share. And I was looking at it, and I was thinking, God, I mean, that's really amazing. That's a 100-fold return, and you get a warrant. And the company's run by idiots. They spent $90 million drilling to prove up 500,000 ounces of gold. So it was like $180 an ounce to drill. And of course, they went bankrupt. But in any case, Mexico, which used to be one of the biggest producers in the world, has turned brain dead. And frankly, I would be very leery of anything in Mexico now until the dust settles. And they used to have some great companies. Renya Silver, Peter McGaw and I went to visit the projects and went into Renya Silver literally 15, 18 years ago. If you ever get a chance to go on a 3-day tour with Peter McGaw, you want to do it. He knows more about mining in Mexico than anybody alive. So if you do three days sitting in a truck with him, he gives you a certificate for a PhD.
That's awesome. That's and you don't have to pay for it in the sense of you don't have to pay $100,000 in tuition.
Actually, it was worse than that. I had been on a tour with another company that happened to be a silver company, and we had gone out and I had eaten some shrimp, and I had the trots. Okay. So, all right.
Well,
Yeah, he's driving around a pickup truck, hoping that nothing bad happened.
On a bumpy road, right?
Exactly.
So you would stay out of Mexico right now. Is there a jurisdiction other than Mexico that you won't really touch?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody called me up once and talked about this gold mine. They had $5 million worth of equipment. They were in production. They were producing 25,000 ounces a year. Their cash costs were 50% of the price of gold. And I said, well, okay, how many ounces you got? He said, we got 2 million ounces of gold, proven and probable. I said, damn, that's good. How much do you want for it? He said, 500,000. Now, that was what you would call a long, pregnant silence. When you ask someone a question, it takes them 15 or 20 seconds to answer. That's called a long, pregnant silence, and that actually gives you a lot of information. So I said, where the fuck is it? Zimbabwe? Well, uh, er, yes. So I wouldn't touch Zimbabwe with a 10-foot pole. Colombia's going through some stupidity right now. Mexico is going through some stupidity. Renia Silver actually, I think, has some great projects in the United States now, and the management's very strong. So I think Renia Silver will be okay. The guys that were investing when I put money into it, we've all been hammered. However, this is a good time to be betting on good management, and Renia Silver has good management. BlackRock Silver, same thing. They've got a great deposit. I mean, I think their stock was like $1.25 a couple of years ago, and it's 20 cents an hour or something like that. And they've got a lot of silver. The silver, the solid silver companies are going to do very well. Now then, if you ask, what's the worst place to invest in right now? What's the flip side of that question?
Yeah. What's the worst place to invest? What are the best places to invest in?
Believe it or not, Bolivia.
Bolivia. Why?
Because Bolivia has some of the greatest deposits in the world. The biggest silver district in history is Potosi, okay, and they produce somewhere between 2 and 3 billion ounces of silver. I own part of Minera San Cristobal. It's the 8th largest silver company in the world, and it's going to make a lot of money at these prices. It's still a private company, so I'm glad that I own it. But El Oro has a giant base metals project: silver, lead, zinc, tin, and the management of the company has stumbled. Okay, they promised a 43-101, and it dragged on, and it dragged on, and it dragged on. They finally released it, and it frankly, they didn't do a good job of communicating. But they've got a deposit that's going to be 2 or 3 billion tons of $100 rock. And I don't see how that can be anything but a giant home run. Bolivia has good management, good leadership in the government. You've got to remember everything that used to be run by the Spanish, the church and a few very small number of families controlled everything. So in all of Central America and South America, political leadership has been poor. Argentina was the fourth richest country in the world in 1914, and they've done nothing but turn stupid since then. Argentina has a lot of potential, but believe it or not, the province you're in, it's a bigger factor than the country that you're in. But there are dozens of silver stocks. I think you could throw money at any silver stock right now and make money.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit more about jurisdictions in the northeastern part of Canada. It's still friendly to you. Would you gauge it
I'd
as that?
love Quebec. I'd love Quebec.
Okay.
Quebec is kind of a hidden secret in the mining business
Yeah.
because lots of people there are French speaking and they don't do a good job of communicating what they've got. But as far as I'm concerned, everything that I've ever seen in Quebec, it is yards ahead of anything else in Canada. And Canada is a very good jurisdiction compared even to the United States.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, because I interviewed someone and I asked him what jurisdictions won't he touch? And he said California. And I thought that was pretty, it's pretty funny. He said, yeah, I invested in a project 15 years ago, still hasn't been permitted. It just, I will never touch California again. So,
Well, I'll go one better. The correct question should be, what is California's state motto?
tell me, Dewey.
The Golden State.
Right? How's that for irony?
Yeah, I would think that it's about time to rethink their motto.
Yeah,
There is so much gold still in California, but I mean, I'm not going to say that everybody in California has a drug problem. That's absolutely not what I'm trying to get across. I think it's something in the water.
yeah, the right, the Pacific Ocean water. Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's something in the water that makes them stupid.
Yeah. Let's talk about gold. Again, we expect silver to do much better. Not much better, but we still very bullish on gold as well. Any projects that you're looking at, or gold stocks? Let's talk about gold stocks. Any projects that you're interested in or looking at, or anything new that's coming across your desk?
There are two companies that are so obvious. I'm absolutely amazed the shares are not 2 or 3 times higher. And I wrote about these companies about a month ago. One of them is West Red Lake Gold. See, there I am, that damn martini. I told you, no martinis before you do an interview. Let me see what West Red Lake Gold is doing today.
Yeah. And I will link, I'll find that article and I'll link to it in the show. But
okay, West Red Lake Gold has a market cap of $145 today. The share price is 73.5 cents. The deposit, the Marsden deposit mine, was owned by Pure Gold. And Pure Gold stumbled. Okay. I think the issue was nobody was in charge. Nobody was paying attention to what was going on. And they literally busted their pick, running out of money. At one point, the Marsden Deposit Mill, and I think the mill cost $350 or $400 million, something like this. Brand new mill, 800 tons a day. At one point, had a market cap of $1 billion. So if West Red Lake Gold just went to where Pure Gold went, they would go up 600%. Okay. Now, when you got a mine and a mill in a good jurisdiction, it's in the Red Lake District. God, I mean, that's like a trifecta. And interestingly enough, somebody came to me a couple of years ago and got me to invest in West Red Lake Gold. They didn't have very much. And then when they came out and announced that they were buying the residue from Pure Gold, Frank Giustra was part of the team behind it. And Frank's a billionaire because he likes to buy stocks for 2 or 3 cents, run the price up to $1 or $2, and then sell it off to the unwashed masses. And I don't like those kind of deals, okay? Because when the promoters are the only guys that make any money out of the thing, that's not a good deal. So the way he made his money is not the way that I approve of. I'll be real candid. He made money by front running stocks. However, with West Red Lake Gold, he didn't do that. He bought in at exactly the same price I bought in, and I was happy to do it. The stock went from, I think, 32 cents up to 90 or 94 cents. It dropped back. They did a financing, something like 52 cents. They just did a money raise that carried some warrants with it too. It pays nice interest rates. Now, I talked to the Irishman who's running the company, and I'll be candid, I've been to 400 or 500 different projects, and that guy's the sharpest guy running a project I've ever seen. So West Red Lake Gold is an accident waiting to happen when investors finally woke up and say, well, gee, why would we want to own 3 or 4 million ounces of gold with the mine, with the mill, $273 million in tax write-offs? However, Marsden is only half the story. There is another project like 40 kilometers away that they've been drilling off that it's a very high-grade resource, and they'll be able to truck that gold to Marsden, to the mill. And I just went, holy cow, how could you not want to own this? So unequivocally, and I've got myself in trouble before, I happen to love the company, and I think the company is going to go far higher, and I do own part of the company. The other project, and this is, I think, the greatest story that I've seen in 25 years. A bunch of young guys like you
Thank you.
decided they were going to go in the mining business. And they had a technical guy, a geologist, and he said, damn, we should go up to Newfoundland. There's an area I'd like to look at that's like 6 miles from Gander. Now, I have flown through Gander probably 150 times. If I had any idea that they had gold coming to surface 6 miles away, I would have grabbed a pick and a shovel and a gold pan, and I would have been 6 miles away, right next to the Trans-Canadian Highway, digging for gold. It's the greatest story because it's not 25, 80-year-olds, okay, who have a great concept, who live to raise money and spend it so they can live their lifestyle. This is a bunch of young guys with some good ideas, and they go in. I don't even know. I've been to so many projects. I can go to a project and I can guess how much gold they've got. It'd be pretty close. Okay. If you send a monkey on 500 different projects, it'd be a pretty smart monkey. But I can't even tell you. The company New Found Gold has somewhere between 5 and 50 million ounces. Okay.
Wow.
They got 5 million in a heartbeat, but they keep drilling. They keep coming up with these incredible intercepts. It is a Fosterville lookalike, and Fosterville was the highest grade gold mine in the world for several years, and took a company from being a $3 billion company to an $18 billion company. The only problem with New Found Gold is their drill results are so good and so exciting, nobody, including me, can even guess how much gold they've got. But I'll be candid. I'm 77. Okay. When I went to a gold show 2 years ago or 3 years ago, everybody at the gold show was older than I was. Okay.
Right.
We've got to have some young people. We've got to get young people to understand why gold is valuable, and we got to get some young people into the mining business. And the team that is running Newfound Gold, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I've got nothing but fabulous things to say about them. It will be mine. There will be a lot of goals, and somebody's going to make a lot of money there. And they've got a ridiculous market cap of like 800 million, 900 million, something like that. The market cap is what you would expect out of a million or million and a half ounce deposit. So Newfound Gold is excellent. But here's what your listeners really need to know. The carnage in the junior market has been so bad that what you could do is put a printout of every junior in Canada on a wall in a room, and you could go in, you could put a blindfold on, you could turn the lights off and throw a dart, and you're going to hit a home run.
It's the market I want to be in. Yeah.
Well,
It's kind of
strange enough, nobody else wants to be in it. That's
Right,
what's
right.
funny. The ETFs are still selling gold. The
Yeah.
ETFs are still selling gold shares. Nobody takes this seriously. And of course, that is the wall of worry that
Yeah.
you climb. Now, when everybody says, oh, God, I just love silver, I just love gold, I want to throw all my money at it, I'm going to say, oh,
Well,
maybe it's time to sell.
how did you sell? Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Bob, I think we'll end on that. Yeah, as always, great talk. I really, really enjoy the few conversations that we had. You don't know this, and this is interesting. We were emailing back and forth. This was 2007. I want to say 2006 and 2007, and you kind of steered me in a good direction. So, but that's something I have to thank for you. So, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you because you're the only person that I ever actually managed to do that for.
I don't think that's correct. Thank you. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. You're extremely gracious, but thank you very much. And I'll have you on again really soon.
Okay, but I think the timing is excellent. A short correction and the next move higher is going to wake a lot of people up.
Yep, I would agree. All right. Thank you so much, Bob. Have a great one.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.